And welcome to India Business Hour. I'm Arundhati Ramnin, and here are the top headlines that we're tracking for you this evening. India's GDP growth in Q3 accelerates 8.4%, shattering estimates. Government revises the FY24 growth estimate higher to 7.6%. Government also revises the FY22 growth rate higher and revises the FY23 growth rate lower. Union Cabinet clears 3 semiconductor proposals. Tatas will join hands with Taiwan's PSMC to set up a 91,000 crore rupee fabrication plant in Gujarat. Tatas will also build an assembly and test facility in Assam at cost of 27,000 crore rupees. CG Power's joint venture with a Japanese and a Thai company to set up an assembly facility in Gujarat also cleared. After being honoured with an honorary knighthood, Sunil Mittal says he is optimistic about a free trade agreement between India and the UK. Also adds average revenue per user could hit 300 rupees by the end of FY25, but rules out any hike in 5G cost for customers. A late surge on Dalal Street on expiry day helped Sensex and Nifty end in the green. Banks lead the recovery. Mid-caps marginally outperform the blue chips, even after SEBI warning Mutual Fund Association about froth in the mid-cap and small-cap space. Brokerages wave a thumbs up after Reliance and Disney form a joint venture to create an $8.5 billion media behemoth in India. Jeffrey says the deal will add 40 rupees per share to Reliance's value.
We would like to sort of ensure that this very dynamic startup ecosystem is not sort of burdened either by too much of compliance or by a lack of knowledge about what the compliance burden is.
Fintech companies want to understand regulations better, and the government is listening, says DPIIT Secretary Rajesh Kumar Singh. After the RBI crackdown on Paytm, hints at digitizing KYC compliance along the lines of telecom companies selling SIM cards, asserts that simplification and digitization of rules is key for fintech growth. That's an exclusive. Setback for Vedantas. Supreme Court dismisses the company's petition seeking to restart operations at its copper smelter in Tamil Nadu's Tuticorin. Court backs the state government's decision to shut down the plant, citing repeated breaches and serious violations. A Supreme Court warning on the high cost of healthcare procedures spooked the shares of private hospitals. Narayana Health Management warns the applying standardized rates for all services will be an Armageddon for private healthcare. An Uzbekistan court sentences 23 people to jail in the Marion biotech contamination case. This includes an Indian national who is given the harshest sentence of 20 years for bribing officials to avoid audit of Marion biotech products. Government sources call his sentencing unfortunate, says the Indian government will do its best to support him. The death toll in Gaza crosses 30,000 since the beginning of the war with Israel in October last year. 70 people waiting for aid are killed in the last 24 hours. Palestinian authorities blame Israel for opening fire at those waiting for aid. Israel denies the claim, says deaths happened due to pushing and trampling. India puts forth a slew of demands at WTO Ministerial Conference, seeks an end to customs duty moratorium on digital goods, asks for lowering remittances cost from developed to developing and lesser developed nations, also opposes the China-backed infrastructure facilitation plan. Let's start with the market action of the day. A late surge on Dalal Street lifted the Sensex and Nifty. Stocks were sulking until about 30 minutes to closing bell, but then a late rally lifted the sentiment. The recovery was largely led by bank stocks. Mid-caps managed to outperform the blue chips marginally, even after SEBI warning Mutual Fund Association about froth in the mid-cap and small-cap space. Shares of Reliance Industries gained in trade a day after the conglomerate clinched a landmark deal with Disney to form an $8.5 billion media behemoth. Reliance, along with Viacom 18, will own over 63% in the joint venture. Network 18 and TV18 stock fell close to 5%. A quick look at how brokerages are reacting to the joint venture. Jeffrey said the deal will add 40 rupees per share to Reliance's value. Morgan Stanley said that while earnings contribution of the new JV will be small for Reliance, it provides them a pathway to leverage on its digital platform, improve returns and monetization. It is an unbelievable bounce back for Bitcoin. The cryptocurrency briefly touched 64,000 US dollars for the first time since November 2021. It is currently trading above $62,000, which is a dramatic surge from $19,000 in June 2022. Traders say tight supply and the launch of ETFs have made Bitcoin an attractive asset class, and that's driving prices higher. The big story this evening, India's growth engines are humming once again. GDP growth accelerated 8.4% in the third quarter, shattering estimates. For context, CNBC-TV18 poll was expecting Q3 growth rate at 6.7%. The government has also hiked the FY24 growth estimate to 7.6% compared to 7.3% earlier. GDP data for FY22 and FY23 have also been revised. Latha Venkatesh is here with a deep dive into the GDP data. Latha?
Yes, that's right. It's a mind-blowing number. For the third quarter itself, the growth has come in at 8.4% against a CNBC-TV18 poll of 6.7. So, I mean, this is like absolutely fascinating. It is, to be sure, a smaller base, because last year's base, which was 4.5, has been revised lower to 4.5 has been revised lower to 4.3. Nevertheless, 8.4 is way above what the street was expecting. What's even better, the full year number, the second advance estimate has revised the full year number to 7.6 against a previous 7.3, which itself was much higher than what the street was expecting. The CNBC-TV18 poll had put the full year number at 7.1. So it's a good half a percentage point higher, according to the second advance estimates. A part of it is explained by the lower revision of FY23, revised lower from 7.2 to 7%. But that again is because the even previous number of FY22 has been revised higher from 9.1 to 9.7. So it's revisions galore, but the net takeaway is that the economy is in fine fettle. Growth is ticking like never before. The key components of growth in the current 9 months and the third quarter is certainly not agriculture. That's actually fallen in the third quarter by 0.8%. But manufacturing has done extremely well at 11.6%. Construction is doing very well at almost double digits, 9.5%. So clearly, this is a growth driven very well by manufacturing and by services like construction. From the demand side, there is a bit of a worry because consumption, private final consumption expenditure, has grown by only 3.5% in the third quarter. Government final consumption expenditure has actually contracted by 3%, but the bulk of the heavy lifting is being done by gross fixed capital formation or investment, which has grown by 10.6%. So consumption still weak. This is a growth, an extraordinary growth, which is being fueled almost entirely by investment. That's the message from the GDP numbers.
We believe that given the prospects of a normal monsoon, good Rabi sowing, prospects for rural income growth, and pickup in manufacturing and mining sector growth, and a pickup in bank credit growth, which has been unfolding. So overall, the Indian economy ticks many boxes in the right way, continuing to grow at around 7%. And now, if there are question marks that are coming, they're coming from the external world.
None of us would have expected this kind of number for Q3. But having said that, I mean, what is really striking is the size of the revisions that have been made in the past. These revisions are substantial. And what is really a little worrying, and really these very high numbers we are seeing for the current year are a result of the downgrading of the previous. But the really strange part of it is that the downgrading has happened only to GDP, not to GVA. I can understand GVA being revised because those are more uncertain data. But GDP being revised without the GVA is very, very unexpected.
And staying with the macros, the growth in 8 core industries slowed to a 15-month low, coming in at 3.6% in January as compared to 4.9% in December. Production of refinery and fertilizers production registered a degrowth. Electricity, coal, steel and cement are the only sectors recording a strong monthly growth. Fiscal deficit for the first 10 months of FY24 touched 11 lakh crore rupees. This accounts for over 63% of the revised annual target. The government's fiscal deficit has been estimated at 17.35 lakh crore rupees, or 5.8% of the GDP. And the big story this evening, the Union Cabinet has cleared 3 semiconductor proposals worth over 1.2 lakh crore rupees. Tatas will join hands with Taiwan's PSMC to set up a 91,000 crore rupee fabrication plant in Gujarat. Tatas will also build an assembly and test facility in Assam. CG Power's joint venture with a Japanese and a Thai company to set up an assembly facility in Gujarat has also been cleared. Ashmit Kumar is here with more on the new projects that have been cleared and its implications. Ashmit?
Well, big announcements coming in from the cabinet today. Ashwini Vaishnav, speaking only minutes back at the cabinet briefing, shared those details. 3 key steps have been taken as far as the semiconductor plan is concerned. India likely to welcome its very first semiconductor fab or fabrication facility, that one coming in the form of a cabinet approval for Tata Electronics. They had made their application being approved by the cabinet. Here are the key takeaways. The investments will be north of 91,000 crore rupees. This fab facility, the first of its kind in India, will be set up in Dholera, Gujarat. Importantly, technology being brought in by the accomplished player PSMC of Taiwan. They have as many as 6 foundries in Taiwan. They will be assisting Tata Electronics in terms of fabrication of chips here. They'll have a capacity of 50,000 chips a day. But here's the other takeaway, other than the fact that this is the very first fabrication facility in India. Another important takeaway is that the chips being made will be of 28 nanometers. The reason that's significant is because as the chips get smaller, the complexity in manufacturing them gets increased exponentially, and therefore the expectation was that chips being made here in India for the very first time will be 40 nanometers and above. This will be a cutting-edge chip coming in at 28 nanometers. That's the first key announcement. The other one is with respect to an assembly and testing facility. Again, a Tata entity, TSAT, as it is being called, their proposal being granted approval. This proposal will envisions an investment of about 27,000 crore rupees. This facility will be set up in Assam, an interesting choice of location there, and will have a capacity of as much as over 90 million chips a day. Which brings us to the third key proposal that was met with approval. This is CG Power. The technology being brought in by their associates from Japan and Thailand. This will see an investment of 7,600 crore rupees and will be set up in Sanand, Gujarat. Key aspects to point out here, other than the big numbers, of course, another number to bear in mind is that this will have direct and indirect jobs of about 80,000 jobs being created. There is also an expectation that this will help boost the value addition that we see locally for Indian industries such as IT, hardware. And importantly, a lot of these chips will cater to a diverse range of sectors such as telecom, such as electric vehicles, such as automotive, as well as capital goods. These are some of the broad areas that will be, their demand will be met courtesy these fabs and ATMP facilities when they get operational.
PowerChip is among the top 5 foundries in the world. They have very huge experience. They run 6 foundries, and they will be collaborating with Tata to set up the first fab in Dholera. This will be a fab which will have a good capacity, 50,000 wafers per month. This is like a wafer. This is the wafer. 50,000 such wafers will be manufactured there, produced there. Each of this will have typically 5,000 chips in it. So this will be a good capacity. It will be catering to about 8 sectors.
And the big newsmaker this evening, a day after being conferred with an honorary knighthood, Bharti Airtel's Sunil Mittal spoke to Shireen Bhan. He thanked the British government and said he remains upbeat about a free trade agreement between both nations. Mittal also spoke about the telecom business. He is eyeing average revenue per user to hit 300 rupees by the end of FY25. But he ruled out any hike in a 5G tariff for customers just yet. Take a look.
Is a tariff hike possible, likely, on the cards? Take me through what the dynamic looks like at this point in time.
You know, Gopal uses the word tariff repair, and I think that's the right word to say, because hike always looks pretty aggressive. Fact is, when I was in Barcelona just 2 days back for the Mobile World Congress, people are stunned at what level of ARPUs the Indian industry operates. $2.2 a month for almost unlimited bandwidth that is sold. 2 Gbps, 2 GB a day, can't even be comprehended by the Western operators who operate at $30-40 a month with probably half a GB a day. So Indian industry, if it has to be viable, and these digital highways that have been built, especially by the two main operators, really need to be financially sustainable. For that, I have mentioned 300 rupees ARPU, which will still be just $3.50. Will just ensure that there's enough money on the table to put up new networks, more fiber, more submarine cables, more satellite investments. And 300 rupees, as you know, was mentioned many years back. A lot of inflation has taken place in the last 5-7 years, where electricity prices are up, employee costs are up. Almost every touch point is up in terms of cost. Yet we are still talking about 300. In fact, that number should look more like 400. But I recognize that it's very difficult in our industry to take the ARPUs up. So next pit stop is 250, then hopefully 300. And if you ask me, I hope it happens within the coming financial year.
So 300 within the coming financial year, or 250 within the coming financial year?
I hope there should be 250 and then 300 by the time we close the next financial year.
Mr. Mittal, on the 5G front, because you talked about that, what about the monetization? Are we likely to see industry? I mean, if you're, as you said, it's a challenge to even get to 250 and 300. What about the monetization, different pricing as far as 5G services is concerned? I mean, should we expect that even?
I think people are not going to pay you anything extra for 5G unless you're going to do industrial applications where you're going to industries and factories. And I was in Barcelona. It's mind-boggling what's going on there. You can see early signs of AI, 5G combined networks running for the industries, especially industrial units. And that is where some monetization will happen. But as far as B2C is concerned, consumer part of the mobile industry, there is going to be nothing for the tens and tens of thousands of crores that have been spent on spectrum as well as the network. And that's why the need to have 300 rupees has become even more acute.
In what comes as a setback for Vedanta, the Supreme Court has dismissed Vedantas' plea seeking to restart operations at its copper smelter in Tamil Nadu's Tuticorin. The apex court backed the state government's decision to shut down the plant, citing repeated breaches and serious violations. And the other big newsmaker this evening, fintech industry wants to understand the regulations better, and the government is listening, says the Secretary at the Department for Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade, Rajesh Kumar Singh. Speaking to CNBC-TV18, Shireen Bhan, Singh said government has already created a mechanism for fintech industry to understand the regulations better after a meeting earlier this week. All this comes days after RBI cracked the whip on Paytm over non-compliance. Rajesh Kumar Singh hinted at digitizing KYC compliance along the lines of telecom companies selling SIM cards. He asserted that simplification and digitization of rules is key for fintech growth. Take a look.
There could always be some areas of compliance which could be simplified or which could be digitized. And I remember there was one specific sort of case that came up in that meeting, which was about KYC compliances and whether that should be digitized. And it was a little surprising, frankly, that it's not digitized in the banking space. The instructions given by the Honorable FM was that we should work on, ensuring that combination of simplification and digitization in areas that perhaps have still remained untouched in some areas, but not in others.
Top Amazon aggregator Thio has filed for bankruptcy in a United States court. This is a part of the deal with lenders to inject fresh capital and pare debt. The company said that lenders have agreed to shave off $495 million of its debt burden. Creditors have also committed to provide Thio with up to $90 million in fresh capital. The restructuring support agreement will see Thio's interest payments delayed for a year. Shares of hospital chains took a knock today on the back of the Supreme Court warning the centre over non-implementation of standard rates for services across all hospitals. The top court has warned that if the centre fails to implement standard procedure rates within a month, it will consider implementing the standardized rates applicable to the central government health services empanelled hospitals as an interim measure. Narayana Health Management said that the difference between CGHS and private hospital rates can range from 20 to 60%. He warned that applying standardized rates for all services will be an Armageddon for private healthcare.
We don't believe that mandating a common price for the whole country, and that too a price as low as CGHS, where you lose money on doing a lot of procedures, would be the way to provide the best quality healthcare around the country. The CGHS rates are applicable to private hospitals for CGHS patients. If you were to make it standard for everyone, then you're asking me to plan on the Armageddon scenario, where the entire basis of a private healthcare industry ceases to exist.
Pharma Secretary Arunish Chawla said there are 40 Greenfield PLI plants coming up across the pharma sector. Speaking to Parikshit Luthra on the sidelines of the ZTWorks Smart Manufacturing Summit, the Pharma Secretary said these projects will be commissioned on the 2nd of March across different parts of the country.
We are going to, the Honorable Minister is going to inaugurate 40 Greenfield plants manufacturing bulk drugs and medical devices. A lot of hard work has gone into it. The initial skepticism is being proved wrong. The PLI is changing the Indian landscape in a big way. And you will see it on Saturday when the Honorable Minister inaugurates 40 big Greenfield plants manufacturing bulk drugs and medical devices that were hitherto entirely imported in the country.
An Uzbekistan court has sentenced a 20-year jail term for 23 people, including one Indian national, to jail. This comes after 68 children died after consuming contaminated cough syrup produced by Indian pharma company Marion Biotech in 2022. Sources have told CNBC-TV18 that the Indian government will do its best to support the Indian national Raghvendra Pratar Singh. Coming up on India Business Hour, India puts forth a slew of demands at WTO Ministerial Conference, seeks an end to customs duty moratorium on digital goods. And you can also catch all CNBC-TV18's news and updates on Facebook, X, Threads, Instagram, and JioCinema. You're watching India Business Hour. The death toll in Gaza crosses 30,000 since the beginning of the war with Israel in October last year. 70 people waiting for aid are killed in the last 24 hours. Palestinian authorities blame Israel for opening fire at those waiting for aid. Israel denies the claim, says deaths happened due to pushing and trampling. The Congress-led Himachal government looks to have averted a crisis for now. Speaker Kuldeep Singh Patana disqualifies 6 Congress MLAs who voted for the BJP in the Rajya Sabha polls. The Congress now has a comfortable majority of 34 members as the disqualification of MLAs brings down the Assembly's strength to 62. There's another financial penalty on Air India. The aviation regulator has imposed a fine of 30 lakh rupees on the airline over the death of an elderly passenger who died due to unavailability of wheelchair. The Director General of Civil Aviation said Air India failing to provide a wheelchair to the 80-year-old passenger who collapsed and died as he walked from the plane to the immigration area. The aviation regulator also issued an advisory to all airlines to ensure there are adequate number of wheelchairs available for passengers who require assistance during embarking or disembarking from the aircraft during their journey. India has made a slew of demands at the WTO conference. This includes an end to the moratorium on customs duties for digital goods. Abhimanyu Sharma is in Abu Dhabi. He joins us now. Abhimanyu, take us through India's demands at the WTO.
The formal closing session of the WTO Ministerial in Abu Dhabi is slated to take place at midnight when ministers from respective WTO member countries are expected to take action on the draft documents. Now, apart from the issues which already have been discussed or are being discussed by India, the issue of e-commerce was again discussed today, with India asking for an end to the moratorium on customs duties on electronic transmissions. India reiterated its earlier stand that if at all the moratorium continues to get extended, that is going to severely impair the growth of digital public infrastructure in developing and underdeveloped countries. So India is asking for an end to the moratorium, which in any case is going to lapse on the 31st of March, and any extension which possibly is being pushed by developed countries is being opposed by India. India has also said that in the e-commerce sector there are only a few big giants, a few big companies, and in order to ensure that there is better democratization on the ground across the world, there needs to be some removal of the moratorium to ensure that there is a level playing field for all countries.
And before we wrap this edition of India Business Hour, the pre-wedding celebrations for Anant Ambani and Radhika Merchant have begun in Jamnagar. The small airport in the city will be seeing a bevy of global celebrities, including Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg, Microsoft co-founder Bill Gates, Disney CEO Bob Iger will also be in attendance after signing the mega $8.5 billion media merger with Reliance in India. Google Sundar Pichai and Adobe Shantanu Narayan have also been invited. The couple's pre-wedding festivities commenced with an Anna Seva, where Anant and Radhika, along with family members, serve food to the locals. Bollywood too is making its presence felt. Shah Rukh Khan is in Jamnagar with his family to take part in the celebrations. Ranbir Kapoor and Alia Bhatt have also flown in, as well as Salman Khan had reached Jamnagar last night itself. Actor Arjun Kapoor has reached as well. Global music icon Rihanna is in Jamnagar to attend the festivities as well. We leave you with these visuals. Thank you for watching India Business Hour. More news and updates on the other side.